Hi everybody! Today I'm going to talk for a long time and you're going to be able to watch my cats for some time. And this is my shape at the moment. I'm working out less and eating about the same thing and I'm not getting fat. Well, when I train a lot, like a fuck lot, and eat a bit more fat, this is when I get fat. So in this video I'm going to answer your latest questions in the comment section. And as you can see, my cats are still waking up. It will take them about 10 minutes to really wake up, so they are at the bottom of the basket. But later they will be sitting and being very curious, you'll see. Okay, so let's start with answering the comments. David asked, any advice on hair thinning on a raw vegan diet? Well, if you're doing a raw vegan diet, I hope you have enough budget for that, because you need to eat a lot. You need to eat a lot to have enough calories, enough nutrition, so that you can have good hair. Well, there can be a few different reasons for thinning on a raw vegan diet or on any diet, because you can see anorexic people on a standard diet having hair issues, or people having hair loss on keto diet, whatever. Anyway, on a raw vegan diet that's vegan, you should be quite high carb. You don't have to be super high carb. Just make sure you eat enough. And you also need to sleep enough. And if you have any deficiencies, you need to solve that, because deficiencies can cause hair thinning. Like check your B12, your iodine, your vitamin D, all these kind of things that your body needs in order to make strong hair. Well, also there's genetics. Some people have weak genetics, but if you notice that your hair is thinning quickly, then yeah, there's a problem. Water, sugar, and sleep should be in check. And then something that not many people know is that you need to quit stimulants. What are stimulants? Well, it's caffeine that's present in cocoa, in tea, like green tea, like matcha tea, or black tea. Herbal tea doesn't contain caffeine. And obviously avoid coffee. And less coffee is better, but zero coffee is the best. And you must know that there's a bit of coffee in decaf coffee. Okay, what's the problem with caffeine? Well, it depletes your emergency reserves. When you consume stimulants, it's like when you take a loan. Okay, you get some money on the moment, but then you need to pay it back with interest. It's not a nice deal. And when your body is too exhausted, then there's no wonder why it puts less energy into the optional decoration, like hair. I had to mention the caffeine because a lot of raw foodists still consume cocoa in the smoothies, for example, or in energy balls. I have a bit of stims only occasionally in the form of some chocolates, once every 2 months only, not more often. I never drink coffee and I haven't had any tea for a few years. If you crave stims, you need to eat more carbs and sleep more. Not whip your body with caffeine till exhaustion. Another reason for hair thinning is excess fat intake. And it's funny, not funny, that a lot of people who say they eat healthy fats, they actually eat way too much omega-6. So how can you eat a better ratio of omega-3, omega-6? Well, just eat things like bananas, papayas, mangoes. Listen, tropical fruits and berries have an excellent, a perfect omega ratio. You can check the website on frugivorebiology.com that explains all this detail. It's very interesting. Anyway, remember that eating too much fat can make your hair thinner, so easy with the fat. And this leads us to the next question. I didn't do it on purpose. So I have a question from Laura. She asked me, how did you stay away from the fats and junk food in the beginning of your journey? What kept you motivated? Well, initially, it was different back then because there was less junk food around, I have to say. Also less information. We were less people eating that way. But I still managed to find some raw foodists in my area, and it was motivating to see that I wasn't alone. Well, most of the time I didn't see them, of course, but I organized some picnics and met some people. So you can do that. Surround yourself with people that have the same goals. And back in these days, my family or my boyfriend didn't eat like me at all. So I was just doing my thing and they let me do my thing. It was cool. I kept myself motivated because I was watching content online daily. I found it so interesting. And then I just replicated what I saw or got some inspiration from their dishes and did my own things. I talked to these people online, and just a few weeks of discipline or just trying out that thing made my taste bud change. Yeah, listen, the taste buds change. Our taste for food can change with a bit of time. So for me, it just takes a few weeks. Usually people say that you need about 21 days to change habits. I find it quite true, but it can be faster or slower depending on you. After some time, my boyfriend cooked something for me. He wanted to make something vegan, like a wok dish for me, and I found it so tasteless. This dish was rice with cooked vegetables fried in oil, but it didn't have much taste for me. I told him, Pascal, I'm sorry, it's bland for me. And he looked so disappointed because he made an effort. And I was feeling sorry. So once I managed to quit the cheese, that very fatty, salty thing, then I lost my taste for fat at all. And still now, a decade after, I don't crave the chocolate and the cheese, the vegan cheese. Well, I can eat it. I think it tastes okay, but it's not like before. I don't like it as much as before. So I don't put these greasy foods on a pedestal. And what I want is like a smoothie of bananas with sugar or other fruit that I bite, or a dish of white rice with pumpkin or sweet potato and some soy sauce, with a side dish of plain lettuce, and I'm happy. The point is that habits are powerful. If you have enough discipline to go through a period of transition, then it becomes easy. So your efforts are worth it because it will be much easier once it's a habit to eat healthy and low fat. After that time, you will crave only low fat foods unless you starve yourself, but that's another story. Okay, let's move on to the next comment. Someone says, Pauline, you're one of my favorite YouTubers. I just wanted you to know that your content is great and it's needed. Please never stop spreading this message. He also added, oh my god, go back to Sugar Made Me Lean. I love that name. And please talk more about fats and insulin, diabetes, etc. in correlation with this lifestyle. Okay, so you notice that recently I changed my channel name to Sweet Fruitness, which was my initial name on social media. I think that Sugar Made Me Lean doesn't attract many people. And I think that sadly, this name with sugar in it triggers them too much and they don't even listen to what I have to say. So I think it's a better strategy to say Sweet Fruitness because fruit is still okay, but it also looks like people fear fruit more and more because of some propaganda on TV, these fake fat experts. Anyway, I still eat sugar, don't worry, we're going to talk about that. Can you hear the sound of sugar here? I already showed proof on my social media that sugar doesn't cause diabetes, and actually it improves diabetes. And if you're new to this channel, you can check what Dr. Neil Barnard says or what Dr. McDougall says about sugar. You can also check Walter Kempner's diet, which did incredible improvements to people's conditions.
Yo, this is the husband of Sugar Made Me Lean, or some would say Sweet Fruitness now. And this is me with my sick voice, and I've got a sick voice because I replaced sugar with grease. I should have just had more sugar and I wouldn't have ended up like this in the first place. Paul Van's wheel out.
Okay, he said grease, but what did he have? Vegan Ben & Jerry's for breakfast? Okay, that was a total cheat day. He doesn't do that usually, but he went crazy.
No, but it's happened over months.
Yeah. Anyway, that day was particularly bad yesterday. So vegan Ben & Jerry's for breakfast, the whole tub. And then, what did you have?
For lunch.
Yeah, for lunch. Okay, so he got some soy cream-based sauce for his pasta.
And then to top it off, I had toasted cheese sandwiches for dinner.
That's sandwich bread filled with molten vegan cheese. Greasy, yeah? And he also had a hot carob drink on that day, which is soy milk with carob powder and sugar, which is much better than a caffeine drink. Carb powder is much better than cocoa powder because it's caffeine free and it's high carb, low fat. Carob powder is a great alternative. Anyway, he had too much fat and his throat is sore now. So if you want to have a body that's less toxic in this toxic world, then you need to eat high carb, low fat. Sugar never caused diabetes, but fatty desserts do. Let me explain. Well, sugar, it's carbs. Table sugar is sucrose, which is fructose plus glucose in one molecule. That's great fuel, and glucose and fructose come from anything like potatoes, rice, sweet potatoes, apple, banana, or table sugar. What we call sugar has a bad connotation nowadays, but it's just pure carbs. And what people actually call sugar is things like chocolates, donuts, croissant, ice cream. And these things, okay, they contain sugar, they taste sweet, but they are so fatty. I would say that about 50% of their calories come from fat, at least 50%. Check it by yourself. And what happens when you eat too much fat, like when you eat chocolate? And any excess of fat in your bloodstream that comes from your diet will saturate your liver cells and your muscle cells. And because of that, the sugar that is in the blood that's usually used as fuel, well, it's stuck in the bloodstream. Why? Because the excess fat kind of plugs your insulin receptors for about 12 hours or more if you eat really a lot of fat. And for that period of time, the sugar is stuck in the bloodstream, and that excess fat paralyzes your insulin for about 12 hours. That's a problem. And what can you do to have a better insulin sensitivity? Well, you have to wait that this fat goes away, that this fat is burnt. You can also exercise to make it go away faster, but not everyone has the time to exercise for the whole day, huh? And people can exercise for the whole day and still get fat or stay fat because they eat so much fat. Any excess fat that you eat will be stored directly in your adipose tissue without any chemical transformation. Fat goes straight from the lips to the hips. Today, a lot of people believe that they need to eat a lot of fat in order to have a healthy body, but they eat way too much fat and it's not good for them anyway. Whereas carbs, no matter where they come from, starches, fruit, or table sugar, doesn't matter. It is carbs, fructose and glucose. After digestion, no matter what source of carbs you eat, you'll end up with glucose and or fructose. And these two things are very satiating, much more satiating than volume, like fiber. You know, I can drink a liter of juice and add sugar in it and be totally satiated for the whole morning because my cells are nourished. They don't ask for more carbs when I give them enough carbs. But when we eat fat, the body doesn't even register the fat as calories. So you can keep on eating and eating biscuits, cookies, cakes, and eat way too much fat, and you'll end up eating 5,000 calories a day and not even realize it. Well, you may stop eating fat after some time because your body thinks, okay, it's going to be hard to digest, I'm going to feel sick. So the fat is not satiating, and the protein is not satiating. Your body will tell you that it's getting disgusted by this excess fat and protein, and that's why you will stop eating them. But what your cells really want is mostly carbs. You need just a bit of protein and a bit of fat. So what's really going on with these keto people that tell you that they heal diabetes by eating keto, a high-fat diet and a low-carb diet? Well, they're lying, but they're not always aware of it. Well, okay, their blood sugar and their glycated hemoglobin can be in range for now, but their insulin resistance is through the roof. They will fail at every glucose tolerance test, which means they are diabetic. Well, they say that they are fat adapted and that we are carb adapted, but they're just diabetic and they didn't heal anything. Whereas if you go on a really low fat diet, high carb diet, then you can reverse your type 2 diabetes in a matter of a few weeks in most cases. So if you're interested about that, you can read Dr. Barnard's book. It's called Dr. Neil Barnard's Program for Reversing Diabetes. And please never do a keto diet because you will damage your body to a level that you have no idea. Like inflammation, bone loss, muscle loss, slow metabolism, low energy, tumor, kidney failure, liver failure, and much more. Let's move to the next comment. Carb power. I eat mostly fruit and vegetables, but some starches are good for me too. Yeah, for me too. I think starches are good, but I'd rather not do a starch solution diet unless I'm really, really broke. I know we need fruit meals daily in order to feel at our best. Anyway, as long as you're vegan, I'm with you. Because I'm vegan for the animals, that's the definition. But then if you choose to do junk food and lots of fat and not enough fruit, that's your choice, and I respect that. Next question from Marvin. So, thank you for the video, Pauline. I agree with you for sure. One question. Could you quantify your sweet spot for sugar content in fruit juices and smoothies? For me, it's between 20-25 per 100 milliliters. So oftentimes I add sugar to both juices, especially to orange juice. Yes, I agree with you. So when I buy citruses or other acidic fruit, I really make sure that they're ripe enough, because if they're not ripe enough, then they're super acidic. It can be bad for your teeth. But let's assume that the juice is decent. Well, I will add sugar in most cases, unless the fruit is super sweet. I think I usually add 100 grams of sugar for a liter of juice or a liter of smoothie. But I will add more sugar if my palate wants more sugar. And is it possible to add too much sugar? Yes, if it's too sweet for your own palate. For example, if you drink fruit syrup without water, that's too much sugar. Sugar needs to be consumed with water. And now some people will say, but you also need some fiber with your sugar. Yes, absolutely, I agree. Like sweet fruit, that's the best package for humans. So fruit has fiber, water, sugar, and many other things. What about juices? Well, there's still some fiber left in the juice. It's a little bit. And if you think that's not enough, well, you have plenty of other meals in a day to have fiber. For example, in a day, I think I have about 50 grams of fiber, and that's fine, that's plenty. And we know that our ancestors used to eat 100 grams of fiber per day. That's great, but I don't think I need that much. I don't want to chew something for the whole day. And what would I do if I was suddenly teleported in a body of someone that is diabetic? Well, I would do Kempner's diet. So fruit, ripe fruit, plus fruit juice, plus sugar, plus water, and a bit of vegetables, maybe like a cucumber, which is a fruit, and some celery maybe, and some white rice. Yes, I would clearly do that. I wouldn't mind adding other starches like potatoes, sweet potatoes. And thanks to that new diet, the body would get rid of the excess fat in the cells of the liver and the muscles, and the sugar wouldn't be stuck in the blood anymore. Insulin would work better and better. Nowadays, all kinds of sugar have a bad reputation, especially table sugar, but also fruit and starches now. It's absolutely crazy. And why is that? Because people are confused. They've been led to believe that things like cookies and chocolate and ice cream and croissant donuts are sugar, but they're fat, as I told you before. Fatty desserts are mostly fat. But you can have some low-fat desserts, and I think that's fine, like sorbet. That's a great option. And things like applesauce are also a great low-fat dessert. And you can also make low-fat cakes at home. And what if you're still scared of sugar? It's okay, I get it. You need some time to trust the process and trust carbs. So you can start with having ripe fruit, sweet fruit, and having starches every day. Just don't eat fruit at the same time than starches, please, because they are not so compatible. You would be bloated because of fermentation. And if you don't add sugar to your diet, just make sure that you eat enough carbs, and that's a really good start. And then if you want to add sugar on your diet, but you're still scared of the white sugar, well, you need to know that the sugar from beetroot is naturally white, because the sugar beetroot is white. And then that white juice is dried and you get that crystallized white sugar. It's okay. But if you want something brown, well, you can have the cane sugar that's naturally brown or golden. You can have all kinds of sugar. I'm not against any of them. If you want that expensive coconut flour sugar, that's great. And I personally go for the white sugar most of the time, but I like others too. Which leads us to the next question, smoothly. Sova asks me, when I eat a cane sugar water drink only, my stomach gets upset and hurts bad. So in that case, I think that person is dehydrated or is drinking that cane sugar water drink too shortly after a meal. And if that meal is a bit heavy, then that's why you could have the problem. So what would I do if I had that problem? Well, anytime I feel some acidity in my stomach or in my esophagus, I just drink water and it solves the problem almost immediately. But if the problem comes from a heavy meal, like a greasy meal, well, all I can do is wait. Okay, let's have a little break with the serious things. So at the moment it's raining heavily. It's raining cats and dogs outside where I live. I'm in northeast France. But on that day when I filmed the cats on the bicycle, there was no rain, and that's a rare thing in the last 2 months. So it's wintertime, it's basically 6 months of cold, rain, and maybe snow. And we had some snow already in Europe. And the cats are awake enough now. They can smell some interesting things in the countryside. As soon as we get out of the town, then they get stimulated and smell some animals. You will see an animal later in that video, so keep watching, don't just listen, keep watching. So these cats are 2 sisters, they are 6 months old now. They are absolutely lovely and they need to be together at all times. I tried to ride with only one cat at a time, but she was crying and the other cat on her side was crying too. So there's no way I can ride with only one of them. I don't want them to be unhappy. I want them to enjoy the ride and look, they are stimulated, they are looking around and they look very happy to me. Sometimes they look at me and say, Mom, where are we? I don't know that place. This was quite a long ride. 50 minutes, that's long. I don't want to ride with them for more than an hour because it gets a bit long for them. They like to be in their usual environment, in the cat tree. And I got them used to riding with me on the bicycle since we got them. Well, first I had a normal basket without the grid at the top, but I didn't wait much before I bought a cage for them because I need to protect them. I don't want them to be bitten by a big dog, or I don't want them to escape if they panic. And they feel safe in their little cage. It's big enough for them. And riding with them is quite a workout because both of them are adults now, and the city bike that I'm using is quite heavy. It's about 18 kilograms. And the road bike that I sold, that I had before, weighed only 8 kilograms. So that's quite a difference, but I enjoy the city bike because I can use baskets at the front and at the back and even ride with the cat, so I'm a really happy mom. I mean a cat mom. So I still don't want children. If you want to have them, that's fine, but I personally don't want children. The responsibility of having cats is enough for me and for Paul. So on that day, I took the cats to the end of a valley that they haven't visited yet. And as you can see, the tourists are gone. We don't see any of them anymore. Finally. And there's not many cars here, and that's why I like to ride with the little pets here. We are lucky to have a lot of bicycle paths here, so we use them and they are safer than the road. Let me remind you of the name of these little cats. So there's Prunelle, that's at the front. Prunelle means wild plum. In English we say slow. And the other one that's hidden now is called Cassis, which means black currant. Great name for black cats. And the cat shelter gave them these names, and I absolutely agree. I don't want to change these names. Recently, we took them to the vet because it was time to get them sterilized. They recovered quickly and they are playful again and behaving like before, so it's all good. Okay, let's go back to health and fitness and weight loss. So I don't show my body much at the moment because it's cold. At home, we don't heat our place. So it's a second winter without heating our place. And I have to say, I'm used to it now, but I don't like to be half naked like in summer. I've tried many forms of high-carb, low-fat diet, and I noticed that the one that gives me no bloating, the one that gives me the most energy and the best health overall, the best mood, is the Kempner style diet. So let me remind you what Kempner style is, which is also the Duran-Rider diet style. It's fruit juice, table sugar, and white rice, and not brown rice. Why not brown rice? So because brown rice is harder to digest, it cooks for longer, you need to chew it more, it tastes really bad in my opinion, and I prefer to have white rice with a side dish that's easy to digest, like steamed sweet potato. And what about people who want to eat a bit more protein than what I do? Well, I think that's fine, but how to do it if you don't want to be bloated? Let's first talk about whole beans, whole lentils, whole peas. Well, first, the green peas, I found them really easy to digest, so I add them anytime, no problem. But when it comes to beans and lentils, I use them only sparingly. So bean and lentils max twice a week, and as a side dish only, not as a main dish. And no amount of soaking and rinsing seems to solve it, so I need to keep the amounts low and try that. And what about processed high protein plant foods like seitan? Well, I think I digest them a bit better. I don't notice any difference really, but I don't overdo them. So feel free to try what you digest the best. Is it beans? Is it seitan? Or is it textured soy? I don't know. Well, anyway, I know I don't need to add this extra protein. I do it only for the taste sometimes. Did you know that the human body recycles about 200 grams of amino acids daily? Well, it can range from 100 to 300 grams a day depending on the person, but let's say 200 grams of protein a day. That's a lot. So your main source of protein is your own body that recycles itself. How smart, huh? And the body doesn't store extra protein. If the eaten protein is not used for building tissues, then it will be excreted in the urines or be converted to carbs. And when your amino acids move around, they require insulin. Yes, protein also contributes to insulin resistance, but the main factor is fat, obviously. And what happens if you're a bodybuilder and you use vegan protein supplements? According to a major study of 2018, the risk of heart failure is increased by 49% for people who consume a lot of dairy protein and by 17% for those who consume a lot of plant protein. The name of the study is Intake of Different Dietary Proteins and Risk of Heart Failure in Men, the Kuopio Ischemic Heart Disease Risk Factor Study. And you're probably interested to see what I actually eat, not just talk. You can watch my playlist What I Eat in a Day, but now I'm just going to show you a few things that I have eaten recently. This is a rare treat that I don't have often, but I absolutely love it. That's papaya. So I have 2 small papayas here with some sugar on top of it. Sadly, papayas are expensive where I live, so that's a rare treat. And by the way, if you can afford papayas or you are living in the tropics, papayas have an incredible omega ratio. So there's 1 omega-6 for 4 omega-3s. Yes, 1 for 4. How awesome, eh? Maybe that's why I love papaya so much. And now in the video I'm turning around. I've gone far enough with my cats. Anyway, it's almost the end of the road and it's only going to get steeper and more deteriorated. So let's go back, and it's going to be faster downhill, as you can see. That day was not too cold for the cats. Well, they have some strong fur. The temperature outside was about 8 or 9 degrees, which was quite warm for the season. And now let me show you my banana stash. I bought lots of them because they were on sales at Lidl. It costed 1.08 euro per kilo, so that's great. I also bought lots of persimmons and some papayas for a treat that you saw before. These weren't the best papaya of my life. I prefer the ones that I had in Thailand, of course. And as promised, you can now see the animal that the cats met. A nice pony that was curious too. The cats didn't say anything, they were just staring at the pony. And that poor horse was alone. Oh, too bad it was not with other horse friends or horse family members. When I was a child, I rode horses and ponies. I was listening to my parents and they thought they were doing something good, but as an adult, as a vegan, I stopped riding horses because I think that's unethical. We have bicycles, we have cars, we have buses and trains. I also learned something very interesting a few years ago about horse riding and the weight of the rider on the horseback. Well, no matter how good the saddle is, the weight of the rider will always block the blood flow of the horse in the horse's back. And that's why the horses are so uncomfortable with a saddle and a rider. And as soon as you remove the saddle, they feel such a relief because the blood flow is restored. In the video, the road is very bumpy and that's why the cat is not very happy, as you can imagine. Now, let me show you how I made my latest smoothie. So I took a bunch of ripe bananas. I didn't have more ripe bananas. And I added some jam. It's jam of berries, a mix of berries. So why not, huh? Usually I take some frozen berries, but this time I took some jam. Why not? And as for the fluid, I only added water. No plant milk, no extra fats added. The omega ratio in bananas and in berries is already optimal. No need to add more fat. But if you're trying to gain weight, then yes, by all means, add some fat. I don't know, chia seeds, flax seeds, plant milk, something like that. What I'm showing on the screen is my gravity filter for the water. So usually I eat my bananas in a smoothie, but sometimes I also like to chew them, like here. I simply make slices of ripe bananas and ripe persimmons or other compatible fruit and boom, a quick meal. Preparing such a meal is quick because you don't have to cook anything. And then it doesn't take long to eat because you don't have to chew it for long. It's not raw carrots, And cleaning that plate is so quick. Just some rinse, rub a little, and that's it. There's no greasy, sticky thing. Eating fruit meals is really simple. Just make sure you're eating ripe fruit and that you eat enough calories from your fruit. However, I don't recommend a full-time diet for the vast majority of people because most people wouldn't be able to withstand social disapproval to that level. And also, you'll get hungry if you don't eat enough, and that's challenging for a lot of people. Because most people are used to eat small volumes of very dense food, like cheese, cookies, meats, etc. So when people try to switch to a fruit-based diet, they will have to increase the volume they eat a lot. And well, someone can get used to that, but it takes some practice. And also, eating a lot of fruit can cost a lot of money, depending on where you're living. But I can say that the banana is a great staple because it's nutritionally complete. A third problem is that people are addicted to whatever foods they are consuming in a standard diet. So changing your diet is a difficult thing. It's very challenging. And especially at the beginning, temptations of foods that we used to like are going to hit you hard. So are you going to resist or not? Well, most people are not going to be able to resist. And one important aspect that not many people talk about is that when you eat fruit meals, you feel your full self. You feel every emotion that's happening. But when you eat some heavy foods, especially greasy foods, well, it numbs your senses. Your mind gets numbed, and that's an addiction, numbing yourself with heavy foods. Have you thought about it? And if you cannot stick to a 100% fruit diet, that's fine. You can also eat some cooked foods at night. I think it's a great compromise to do fruit during the day and a cooked meal at night. And this cooked meal must be high-carb, low-fat. And that's much better than eating high-fat foods. Starch dishes that are high-carb, low-fat with a bit of vegetable on the side are always much healthier than animal-based meals. Always. And talking about that, Let me show you a rice dish that I've made in the recent days. This is a very simple one-pot dish. This is white rice with some pumpkin and a bit of herbs, a pinch of seaweed, and some soy sauce. Very simple to make. First I boil the pumpkin, and then after some time I add the rice and I season it, and that's it. You don't need to be a great cook to make successful starch dishes. Just pick a starch that tastes good to you and that you digest well. Cook it enough, not too much. You can add salt, sugar, spices. Just don't add oil or greasy things on it. If you want to lose weight, don't add oil at all in your starch dishes. Don't add plant creams, don't add nut butters. But if you're trying to maintain your weight or gain weight, then feel free to add some fattier vegan foods, no problem. Or particularly if you're a man that's very active physically, then adding a bit of fatty foods in your vegan diet won't be much of a problem. Okay, I also wanted to answer some questions about the teeth. So what about the best dental hygiene? Should you add sugar or not? Does sugar rot your teeth or not? Well, a lot of people believe that sugar rots your teeth, but that's not accurate. If your dental hygiene is bad and you're dehydrated and you let a sweet puddle sit in your mouth for hours, then obviously you're going to have issues because that sugar that stayed there for hours or maybe for a whole night, it will feed bacteria colonies that will grow a lot and then make waste. And their waste is acidic, and that acid will attack your teeth. That's what rots your teeth, acid. So let me tell you how you should take care of your teeth while having a sweet diet. Well, first, if you consume anything acidic like citrus juice or even any fruit, because fruit contains some mild acids. So if you have fruit, after you eat the fruit, you need to rinse your mouth with some water to dilute the acids. That's really a good start. Rinse it well. So remember, after you eat some fruit or anything acidic, okay, rinse your mouth and then wait at least 30 minutes before you brush your teeth. Because when there are acids in your mouth, then these acids are going to make your enamel softer. But then you rinse it and the acids go away. Acids are buffered by your saliva, and then only you can brush teeth because your enamel will be hard again. And don't be scared by fruit. In my experience, when I eat the most fruit in my diet, this is when my teeth look the absolute best. But some people who don't get enough information, sadly, they brush their teeth just after drinking citrus juice. And when you brush enamel that's temporarily soft, it will scratch your enamel. That's bad. So rinse your mouth well, people. Remember that. Rinse well after fruit, especially after fruit juices or after acidic sodas. So keeping your mouth hydrated is a very important part of a good dental hygiene. You also need to brush your teeth after every meal, obviously. I say obviously, but when I talk to people, usually they tell me that they brush twice a day only and not 3 times a day. I'm grateful that my dad was a dentist. He's now retired, but thanks to him, I have some very good dental habits. So I never go to bed with a dirty mouth. I always brush before bed. And also something that I added in the recent years is flossing. It doesn't matter what you eat. You should remove anything that's stuck between your teeth, and flossing helps with that. Well, brushing helps too, but it's not always enough. I recommend using a toothbrush that has thin, soft bristles. And I don't even use any toothpaste, I just use water. What's the most important is the movement, the brushing. Maybe once a month I use Paul's toothpaste that is fluoride free. And if you already apply all of these tips and still struggle with some cavity or some thin black lines under the teeth, then maybe you should get a water pick for next level dental hygiene. And if you have some tooth sensitivity, I think it means you have a cavity that you don't see and you should see a dentist. And if you have bad breath with such a healthy diet like the high-carb low-fat diet, then maybe you have a cavity that you still had for a long time, and a dentist would fix these cavities easily. But people who have a standard diet that's high protein and high fat, well, they stink from the mouth. That's normal. That's ketones, that's purines. Yeah, protein and fat are dirty fuels, whereas carbs are such a clean fuel. So I'm going to keep talking for the rest of the ride recording, which is like 49 minutes. Okay, the next question is about salt. So someone asked me, do you ever add salt to your food? I tend to add a pinch of 2 to my potatoes in the evening. And my answer is yes. Well, I add salt to the vast majority of my days. The thing is, if your sodium levels are too low, then your blood tension will be too low. You want a healthy blood pressure, right? So you need to have enough of these minerals that are called electrolytes in your blood. Well, let's say you are a long-term fruitarian and you're used to not eat any table salt at all. And in that case, your body will be used to it, not to have any extra salt. But if you're a normal person that still eats salt, then you cannot quit salt like that overnight. Because your body is used to receive table salt every day in the form of sea salt or iodized salt or soy sauce or in different products. So every day your body knows that it receives salt, and also every day it gets rid of salt in the urines or in the sweat. Okay, let's say you want to do something like rotilfor and have a bit of salt, and you're sedentary, or you barely move, you just walk a little, you don't do any exercise, then you can have a bit of salt. But if you ride your bike or if you exercise throughout the week, then you can add more salt. At the moment, I exercise so little that I find that the right amount of salt for me is only once a day at dinner. But let's say I ride across France and I'm going to sweat a lot of salt. So in that case, I don't hesitate to eat low-fat bread, which is very salty, or I eat any salty food, it's fine. But also make sure that I stay hydrated a lot thanks to water and fruit juices or juicy fruits. And how do you know if you eat too much salt? Well, you don't even need to try to measure it because the amounts are so tiny that you're going to get inaccurate measurements in the kitchen. So if you eat too much salt, then the next morning you're going to wake up very puffy in the face. Well, it doesn't look good, but it can be solved quite easily by drinking water, simply. And on the next day, you go easier with the salt. You can also dilute your soy sauce and it will taste fine. And on the opposite, how do you know if you lack of salt, if you lack of sodium? You would feel weak, slow, and tired. And adding a bit of salt will solve it quickly. And then I have to talk about what is too much water, because sometimes people tell me, oh, you drink too much water, it's dangerous. You know what's dangerous? It's drinking 5 liters of water in an hour or in 30 minutes. That can kill you, okay? Especially if you're not in a desert, sweating a lot. But when you're like me, drinking like 2.5 or 3 liters per day, in 24 hours, that's not dangerous. And people who eat absolutely no salt are scared of water because they don't want to lose the minerals they have. But they could eat a little less water than us or add a bit of salt. I mean, it's simple. And now in the videos, we are back in town, going home, and the little cats are getting a bit tired. This outer world is very stimulating, and they will have a great nap after that. Maybe they're going to dream about the pony that they've seen. And now we can end this video by talking about weight loss. So let me remind you my weight loss story. So initially, I just wanted to go vegan for the animals. That was my absolute priority. And then I discovered different forms of vegan diet, healthier or less healthy, and I chose the food-based one because it was really appealing to me. Although I didn't enjoy fruit that much, but I don't know, it sounded right to me. And then I learned to pick tasty fruit in the store, and I quickly enjoyed it so much that I never wanted to go back to a standard diet. I mean, before that high-carb vegan low-fat diet, sometimes I was feeling so sad for no obvious reason. I had no idea I needed more carbs. Also, in 2004, I got a kidney infection. So that was quite serious. And I got that while eating normally, not doing anything crazy. At that time, I had no idea I didn't drink enough water. And also I was eating too much protein and too much fat. But luckily, I never did a keto diet. Oh, I'm so grateful not to have ever done that. Anyway, that kidney infection was really my wake-up call. This is when I started paying attention to what I put in my mouth. When I was an omnivore, I had a few mild bladder infections. And then, as a high-carb, low-fat vegan, I never had any. So in a sentence, before I had some inflammation and I was not hydrated enough, and now, in the last 13 years, I'm watered up all the time, I'm hydrated, and I keep my inflammation super low thanks to a low-protein, low-fat diet. So when I went on the fruit-based wagon, I became so healthy and so happy. It's like life was colorful suddenly. It was awesome. So I started enjoying all the fruit I wanted, and I lost weight effortlessly. And I started exercising after that weight loss. I don't even know exactly how much weight I lost. It's probably 8 kilos or more, because I check my weight maybe every 6 months or less often. To give you an idea of what I was doing exactly, so I was fruit-based for sure. Let's say 95% raw on average. And for 4 months, I was completely fruitarian, frugivore. It was awesome. It was in summer and the prices were good and I didn't have many food temptations, so it was easy for me. And then I kept doing fruit-based till 2014. And then I checked my B12 and it was too low. So I decided to start taking B12 supplements. Finally, I was also living without a fridge for many months. It was all right. And then in 2015, this is when I started cycling and I started doing Rotil 4, so with a cooked meal at night. And at that time in France, the vegan junk food started arriving on the shelves. And I have to say, I tried a few things. Sometimes I overdid them, I gained some weight. And then I stopped eating that stuff and lost the weight again, simply by avoiding these fatty foods and going back to my fruit meals and my low-fat starch meals. On that year, I also tried a gluten-free, soy-free diet, but I don't know, I didn't feel like it made any difference for me when I think about it, but maybe for you it would, I don't know. So since then, since the 2015, my standard diet is fruit at breakfast, fruit for lunch, and starches for dinner. Well, sometimes I add some vegan junk food, but I avoid it because it's too much grease and I don't want to get fat and not feel optimal. And sometimes when I'm out of ripe fruit for lunch, this is when I don't mind having starches for lunch. And one last remark is that I don't know how people can restrict their calories. I just cannot. I need to eat. Otherwise, I would think about food all the time and not being able to focus on my activities, like working, like doing anything I have to do. So I need to eat in order to exist. And people who restrict their carb intake are going to pay the price later, because a lack of carbs in the human diet will cause a slow metabolism. Sooner or later, the cravings will kick in and the people are going to gain so much weight. So that's the classic yo-yo effect. Restrict now and gain much more weight later. And if you have restricted your calories for too long, then you will have to accept some yo-yo effect. This is part of the healing process. And this process can last for weeks, months, and sometimes a couple of years. So remember, never restrict your carbs, but limiting your fat intake is the healthy way to become lean. Here are my ebooks, so 4 of them in a pack. You can find them in the link in the description. And if you want individual coaching, I also do that. It's in the link in the description also.